Hello everybody and welcome to another video in a new week here on the Wotv JP side. I do realize that there has been some global news. I'm going to do a video about that and talking about some stuff there. I'm going to talk about some stuff in this video and Peachy. Alright, so getting into JP news. This is the second week of 2024 and as such, it's going to be a busy week especially for people who really like Nier. And outside of that, not too terribly much happening at this point. I do have a hunch at who will be the next character, which we'll talk about then in a second. But, okay, alright. So what do we got this week? Well, Nier is getting into one of its big events. The, what is it? Like, it's a raid? What is it? Some kind of raid? Yeah. And the raid this time is against a robotic boss that will be a Thunder Elemental and weak to Strike. So basically, it's 2 Ps. And there hasn't been really a truckload of raids recently. And this is just another in a long line of Earth raids, it feels like. I don't know. For me personally, I'm not an Earth Elemental person. It's my weakest team. And I'm not super excited to see another Earth raid that is focused on Earth characters. But you guys out there undoubtedly probably will be. And this still will be beneficial to everybody else. And it's not like raids are that difficult most of the time. They're just sort of labor intensive. So me getting my whinging and complaining out of the way of it being yet another Earth focused thing. Whatever, right? Like, it's fine for some other people. We also have Mashiri, Ketone, and Adora, also getting their Limit Burst upgrades. Sorry, getting there. I don't really know what to expect for this because these tend to be directions for characters, and if the character doesn't really cast their Limit Burst, or doesn't usually get a chance to cast their Limit Burst, these upgrades can be relatively underwhelming. The Mashiri and Ketone, I think Ketone's the one that I'm really keeping my eye on because she's pretty good at using her Limit Burst. And there is some potential for her being really good if they focus it in on DPS and evasion, since that could be a direction with 2P also. So keep an eye on this for tomorrow. Speaking of tomorrow, we will have 2 new vision cards. So let's start with the cheaper of these 2, which is the Raid Nier Automata vision card. Now this vision card is obtainable by simply playing the raid and getting the rare raid up to level 5, which basically means do the raid up to level 100. You're guaranteed to get this VC, and from there you can farm the shards for it. I really like the artwork on it. It's really nice, the color schemes and everything. I actually just really like the way it looks. Now, as for what it is equipable by the Sword and Knight group, axes, fists, and swords. And taking a look at this, well, we'll talk about that group in a second, but magic attack resistance up, attack up, and dexterity up when the VC is maxed, which is pretty fine. Also, for quest only, acquired AP acquisition goes up. So this is a free VC, and it is a free holo VC, which is generally a nice thing to get. For quests, you'll also get shooting attack resistance up by 3 and acquired job points up by 25. So seeing that everyone can get their hands on this, it's a nice little, use this most times, makes older quests a little bit easier, and works for, a fair wide range of classes, mostly focusing on some newer stuff. But the BC potentially might still be interesting for people to get and focus on, as it is a bestowed effect of attack up and evasion up. And evasion people are always looking for any source of evasion that they can get, especially if you missed something previously. So this VC will probably just be good enough for that reason, because it's free and it's generally easy to get, and it's a source of evasion and job point farming. So cool. We'll take it. We'll take it, kind of thing. Now, this VC is the real gotcha of this week. And I have to say, this is the most sword VC that you've ever seen. So the classes that this is obtainable or usable on, or beneficial for, sorry, getting around to saying it right. Sword such as Red Mage, sword such as Warrior, and sword such as Knight. So basically all of the sword classes combined together in a single VC, and doesn't stop there. This VC's party ability is increases slashing attack, increases slashing attack resistance, and increases single attack resistance when it is maxed. Guild battle only will give critical avoidance. For a guild battle, will also increase HP by 3% and attack by 3%. And as for the specific unit that gets to equip this, attack up and area resistance up. So I think, personally, this is a really nice looking VC. I have to say, though, that it is kind of disappointing. Like, katanas haven't really gotten any love recently. Katanas are feeling very, very left out of the mix. And while this is interesting for a bunch of different swords, usually, like, the way I look at it is that you kind of want the blood sword on one of your characters. And I mean, I just can't think of the party that this really is really making me excited for. Also, to comment on this a little bit more, recently I've been trying to develop a new sword party that works with the new version of Lucio and a couple of great sword units. And this just doesn't work for that. And so you look at this and, like, Noctis, Lucio, Violet, Owlet, Agrius, Engelbert, Ramza, Warrior of Light. Like, there's plenty of team combinations here that you could work with. Howley Sword, Wing Stern, Ferris, Swimsuit Glassy. Like, the list is really, really long. It's just everybody with a sword, basically. I think that there are good applications here, but it doesn't excite me because it doesn't really push anything that I want to necessarily try. And for Lucio, new version of Lucio, it's actually quite a good VC in combination with characters. Like, you can pair this really easy with Engelbert, him, and Bartz. That makes a really nice tank team and powers up all three of them quite nicely, which you can then combine with some other VCs too. So I think that this VC is good, but for me personally, I find it slightly underwhelming. Artwork is great though. Hope and Despair, Light and Dark, really nice VC artwork this week, which, you know, rarely ever misses. All right, so continuing on, login bonuses are pretty standard, nothing terribly exciting here. We do get a general idea when the next update will be, which is next Wednesday. Will also be the app update, which will feature some new features that we'll look more into next week. As for specialty banners on JP or anything that might be worthy of talking about, scrolling through, not too terribly much. Mostly all of the VC stuff that we are seeing here is pretty standardized at this point in time. And honestly, I'd much rather either of the new VCs that are limited than going for a standardized one, just because of the way it is. As for this, however, we do see a pickup for the old Warriors of the Crystal banners, which, scrolling through, you see some 4 steps, you see all of that, and 5 steps. Nothing really here that's exciting at all or has me wiggling, except for this one, which is a UR 120. So choosing one of these units as a 120, which I think is quite decent, because there's at least a couple of these units, and more often than not for most people, there's one unit on here who's still quite really, really good. Hold on, is this a select banner? I'm double checked. Yeah, it's a selected UR. That's fine. Just fine. Just making sure before I say it too badly. Ugh. But anyway, yeah, Velis, if you're a new player and you were looking for a definitive character that would be a good investment on here, Velis. Especially with some of the new water elemental characters that have popped up. So yeah, that is basically a look at JP for this week. It's basically a lot of raiding with the near side. I'm wishing that it was a little bit more focused on A2, because I have A2, and I would like a reason to use her more. But it is what it is. We'll do what we can, make the best of it, and see if the black box is even too terribly worth stressing about. All of that in a few, 24 hours? Have all that info for you. Thanks so much for watching. Take care. See you later.